Welcome back to another episode of Spiritual Teachers Podcast. With me today is AshEL, Seasons Eldridge. It's such an honor to have you on today, brother. Um, AshEL is the co-founder of esphera.earth, which is an organization to restore ecosystems, revitalize communities, heal and create capacity for movements who work with marginalized communities. AshEL is also a medicine musician, a healer, and a visionary. It's such an honor to have you on today, brother. Thank you for joining.
Good to be here. Good to be here.
Yeah, man. So today we got a whole list of topics that we may or may not cover, but some of the topics are elemental activism,
Mm,
Japanese practice, just overall activism, holistic detox and recovery support system program, Celestial Church, essential food and medicine, Earth Amplifier, the documentary Ancestral Medicine Healing the Streets, the need to mainstream the mystical, different modalities that have influenced AshEL, and serving medicine. So, yeah, brother, we got a lot of amazing topics to cover and talk about. So, would you be open to sharing how it all started for you? How did your journey evolve?
Okay, wow, yeah, that's a big question. Like, how did all evolve? I mean, I guess we can start. I grew up in Chicago. So I was born to Louis Williams and Ashley Eldridge Jr. Sort of hardworking, low-income family, one of which really stressed education and you know a lot of gang activity was happening in the community. And one of the ways out was looked at as education. So my pops really exposed me to a lot of different cultures. And I was going to the museum on the weekends, and I was going to Black Man Beasley academic group, you know, and also had a lot of chores, a lot
Yeah,
of discipline.
keeping you busy,
And what's up?
keeping you busy.
Keeping me busy. And then so that was an aspect. At some point, though, I mean, there was also church came in there, and I had a lot of questions about church when it happened. My pops got more religious as time went on. But it was, we grew up at Barbara Jean Wright Courts, 1080 West 14th Street, downtown, downtown inner city Chicago. So
Hmm.
it was a little like Barbara Jean Wright Courts, these like townhomes.
Hmm.
Behind us was a huge, I think, 12-story projects, you know. So it was that type of situation. But you know, going to the Shed Aquarium on weekends, going to the art classes and being exposed to so much was a blessing and I guess a curse for them because I got like I wasn't necessarily on the straight and narrow at that point. I got exposed to so many different people, so many different
Hmm.
cultures, so many different ideas um, that by the time I got to high school, I had a really diverse group of friends, was into everything from basketball and sports, but also to a lot of different various spiritual practices and teachings beyond the
Hmm.
Christianity that was sort of grew up on.
Hmm.
And I was able to just talk to a lot of different folks. I got kicked out of my first high school doing graffiti art at St. Ignatius College Prep. So doing graffiti and I was big into hip hop. And but then going to Oak Park and Real Forest High School, and that was, 3,500 students at that school.
Hmm.
And that one again exposed me to a lot of different social economic backgrounds. So I think it began with a lot of expansiveness and the capacity to be with a lot of different ideas, people, cultures, and a
Hmm.
lot of openness in that way,
Hmm.
especially also like philosophically as well. So by the time I went to undergrad at University of Rochester, upstate New York, because I was like, I gotta get way away from Chicago,
Yeah.
gotta gotta get away from the parents. I was president of the first of all, I double majored music management, minor creative writing. Psychology was my other major. Found out I had a psychology major at the end of when I was graduating. It was like, yo, you took all the requirements you needed because I was big into just at that point doing anything that I felt this like love or interest in and passion for, and
Mm-hmm.
not doing it strategically for some end at that point. I was like, I'm just doing what interests me. So a lot of my life has been guided in that way, like what really is connected to my soul, where do I feel that energy from, that inspiration. So, I was president of the concerts committee, I was production manager at the radio station, as well as the double major and the minor in creative writing. So I just was into a lot of things, got into this one elective that really inspired me a lot was called um, Healing Touch. No, Therapeutic Touch.
Mm-hmm.
All these healers that came from all around the world. Every week there was a different healer, a different modality, from Feldenkrais to Therapeutic Touch to Reiki to. And I remember this healer came from UK, and did some really beautiful work on my. She was an elder at the time too. She did work on my stomach, and she really led me down this path of um, having me tap in with past life work, ancestral healing, trauma healing, and also a little bit projected into the future around like what my potential like sort of past might be, and how I can like cultivate my gifts. So,
Mm-hmm.
eventually everyone has a story where they meet different people at different touch points. So I remember that woman specifically, and that introduced me to other elders and spiritual guides along the way.
Mm-hmm.
So when I left University of Rochester and they're going to Institute of Transpersonal Psychology in Palo Alto, I was curious about what this ayahuasca was about.
Mm-hmm.
This was like, 2000 this was like 2002, 2003, 2004.
Wow.
And I was hearing about this, man, I felt some connection to this. So I had two choices. I was either going to work in Jersey with my uncle, peeling carpets from floors or something like that,
Right.
or go to grad school, get, my master's or PhD at CIS, California Institute of Integral Studies, or Institute of Transpersonal Psychology. And then so I went out and I visited the school, and I visited CIS first, and I was like, I'm gonna visit CIS and go to ITP. And CIS was cool, and they were like, well, we're gonna have you have to wait a year, and I didn't want to wait a year.
Mm-hmm.
ITP accepted me like immediately. And the cool thing about it was that when I had this journey out, I met another person, another touch point person. This guy, Augie, never forget him. He had like a glass eye. He was like this guide at the crossroads.
Wow.
And he got picked up and immediately got in contact with him and ended up going to Levi Strauss's house in Marin. And it was something out of a movie. And then he was there doing tarot. And he's
Wow.
gonna drive you to this place to check and see if you want to be at the school. He's like, I just feel like I need to be a part of this journey. And he did some tarot and ended up going to ITP, ended up doing that journey. So Institute of Transpersonal Psychology,
Mm-hmm.
where I studied shamanism, I studied Taoism. Um, but that opened up from there, it just opened up. That's why I met like my teacher from Peru. Um, that's why I started getting into Taoism. That's why I got into crystallography. Met a lot of teachers. Tian Gong, Grandmaster Li Tian, Taoist alchemy practice, like the long list of teachers. Sukimari, the Japanese practice.
Mm.
Yeah, go into those
Yeah,
more.
I'm really curious about that one. And you mentioned crystallography. What can you elaborate a little bit about that? I haven't heard about crystallography.
Yeah, just working with crystals. So I
Okay.
had this woman, she was a teacher at ITP, and I was big into crystals. I was like as consciousness. So she was, um, you know, I think she was Mexica. She was native,
Mm-hmm.
and she was really like, yeah, we work with crystals historically, and she's like, and so did your people, work with quartz and crystals and stones, and so she introduced me to animism basically, and the idea that spirit resides in everything, and especially in these living stones, living rocks, these liquid. structures that we
Yeah.
call crystals, you know. And then so that is so then from there I end up doing edit my grad. I did my because you have to work with someone and do a project and be in sort of intern with them as a project in the field. I worked with this guy Kirby Seed from Ancient Technologies.
Hmm.
Kirby had his program Ancient Technologies. He was a crystal like dealer, not
Mm.
crystal meth, but
Right.
the crystal dealer. But he literally attracted crystals from all around the world. He had a Mongolian statue that was a jade statue that was about like
Wow.
this big,
Wow.
that was from Mongolia, and you could put your hair on it and then go 1,000 miles away, and somebody could touch. They knew how to work with it. You could touch the Mongolian statue, and you would feel it on your leg.
Wow.
They would do distant healing and things like this with this Mongolian. He had these quartz. People would come and find him, like different shamans from around the world. I was working with him. That was a guy who was building these structures out of LED that would do polyrhythms when you plug it into a sound source. And he would plug these LED. When you set the crystal bowl, he had these orbs of different crystals. Some were like really, really big, some were small, and they had different consciousnesses. And he was could tap into them, tell you this one represents this one is for that. This one wants to travel like this. He would just be a steward of these crystals and these
Hmm.
stones. So you would put them on this thing he created that would do different rhythms of color and then turn the lights out. And eventually these polyrhythms would amplify through the quartz because the quartz are amplifiers. So we talked a lot about piezoelectricity and pyroelectricity. So heat, pyroelectricity, crystals are everywhere. They're on our computers right now as we're talking. And the piezoelectricity sort of squeezing it, but they also would amplify color. So these rhythms would be playing, and it brought me back to the drum in Cuba. It brought me back to the drum in West Africa. And literally, at some point, you can start seeing things in the crystal, almost like scrying like on water. And then so I remember having different experiences where I'm doing this with him, and we would do it also out, you know, at static dances. I would DJ light. I would DJ light through the crystals, all this stuff.
Wow.
But I remember having these journeys with it where I could go in the past and the future, and the orb returns into the earth. And it was like I see all the patterns and expanding. This is just, it wasn't anything happening per se, but it was the consciousness of the crystal was opening up a space of seeing based off the polyrhythms of the flashes, altering the ratio between theta, alpha, and the brainwave frequencies, basically. And
Right.
then so, and it's the same thing that we would do for years, like different indigenous cultures would do over time when we would want to go into dream space and drumming, and you open up a different rhythm that will allow different wisdom to come in or different messages to come through. So this was like ancient technologies we did. So that's one thing from in terms of the crystals.
That's amazing. So these crystals, were they clear or were some of them like solid, like black, for example, like obsidian, or were they mostly like more clear like a quartz where you're looking into a like a what do they call that? Like a like an orb of quartz that people
Yeah.
gaze into?
Yeah, I mean, for this particular, for ancient technologies with Kirby C, they were all quartz.
Okay.
He had various ones of different sizes and shapes and all kinds of things and colors and different stones from around the world. But
Wow.
but this one was definitely when you work with this particular technology, you would work with definitely work with the quartz. And it had a lot of memory too of just it brought me into because after that I started working. Another intern I had was working at the Psychoacoustic Institute with Dave Gibson, who does a sound healing, globe recording sound healing. And then so both of those was like sound, color, and quartz was the basis of a lot of actually remembrance for me, but also remembrance of different technologies that amplify that they allowed you to work with consciousness. I think those are the basis of magic too.
Yeah.
You know, you can work with light, you know, you can work with something that amplifies both color and light. Then you can do a lot of things. You can move things, you know. So it brought me to the mystery and the mystical. That
You,
in itself.
it sounds like were you able you mentioned you saw some past lifetime stuff?
Yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah. I mean, working to my specifically while working with this quartz, I mean with
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
yeah, that brought me back to Atlantis, I remember, which is the precursor. Like so when we have ancient Kemet, like they call it ancient Egypt, a lot of the priests from Atlantis, this was being communicated to me, set up what we know as like ancient Egypt, you know, so all the things, so all the technologies that were used then and the communication that happened intergalactically were part of setting up what we know as like the pyramids, you
Hmm.
know, it's amazing technology. They're still like, how do we do this?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that opened up that space. But around that time too, all this stuff was happening around that time. So around that same time, I was also working with maestros from Peru.
Hmm.
So I was already also having coming back from ceremonies and was having like man calling my teachers and friends like yo I have visitation on top of my roof. But, but, but I was they didn't know that I was also working with Kirby C's technology where I'm having beings at the foot of my bed because I have this orb in my bed flashing these polyrhythms, you know, and so I'm
Wow.
having images of, you know, fowls of my life fly through my life and I'm having the Eye of Horus and I'm having visitation on top of my roof and I'm afraid to look at the foot of my bed because I feel a presence there. So I'm having the veils open up.
Yeah.
And then I start to learn that like these dimensionalities that we talk about, they're all present right here.
Yeah.
It's happening right here, right now. Even the past and the future is accessible
Mhm.
to this moment. And then so that was just, yeah, very expansive time. A very expansive time.
So these beings that were coming to visit you, were they more mostly spirits, or was there some extraterrestrial activity as well?
Yeah, you know, the line became blurred between nah, you know, even when I'm working with Grandmaster Lee Tien from Tien Gong, we work with a lot of galactic energies. I just did a galactic language activation workshop last night. And, you know, they were these beings, they would call them higher wisdom beings. And I started to learn that it was sort of almost like a syncretism, that sometimes those same beings are also what we call as angels.
Hmm.
And some of those same beings, like we call them aliens in some at some point in time, depending on the perspective of the culture.
Yeah.
But they didn't like to be called aliens because they were like, wow, we can be in the earth, we're from the earth. You know, some of them were like, yeah, we've been around a long, long, long time. That's like a misnomer. We're not like alien to the earth. We know the earth better than you do.
Right.
That's
Right.
what they say, right?
We're the aliens.
They're like, what are you hating? So this was the only thing that was interesting with T and Gong. But just to bring it back to, but all this was happening around the same time. It was a very activating time.
Hmm.
2000, what, 2004, 5, 6, 7, like all the way up to 8. That's when I really started grounding it more,
Hmm.
you know, more in like activism and in the communities. But that whole time period was very open, going to Institute of Transpersonal Psychology, sitting with these teachers, sitting with plant medicines, um, working with the crystals, working with past life. I had a woman who was an oracle that I used to work with, I call her my spiritual mom, and she would draw past life work. Like she would actually work with charcoal. And she
Oh
would
wow.
close her eyes and she was just like, she could see different times. She's like, oh, you died on the battlefield in this point in time and trippy stuff. She's like, yeah, your nose is shattered on this. And
Jeez.
then, and I'm like, wow, like last year I got elbowed in the nose when I was playing basketball, like, you know, different things, synchronicity. So eventually, all these things, and then also learning about synchronicities, about Carl Jung, because of doing my psychology work. Then I start, and then Institute of Transpersonal was about spiritual psychology and transpersonal against across cultures. So I was starting to get this view and this map of a spiritual world is really rich. Um, and and the mystery just opens up and it keeps going to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I mean, that's fascinating. Very few people have these kind of really deep experiences. It sounds like the combination of the teachers that were coming into your life, working with the medicines, being so open, right? and then having the different tools in your house, in your bedroom, that was all, sounds like it was all playing a big role in all that, right?
Yeah, yeah, amazing. I remember I had one ceremony because it all was linked. I remember I had one ceremony with this teacher from Peru. This is like 2003, 2004. And then, again, I'm not really telling my parent, like I can't, I mean, now people use, they, ayahuasca, blah, blah, like it's like everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Mushroom. But back then it was kind of just like, boy, what you doing? Like,
Yeah.
this type of thing. And they're like, wow, you dabbling in some, you out there.
Yeah.
But I remember having very clear moments. And I think it changes over time. Like now, as I work, I do more healing work, I have a different relationship with the medicine, so it's like I'm not getting these fantastic Pablo Amaringo visuals anymore because
Hmm.
I have a different relationship and different things I'm listening for
Hmm.
and to. But then um, it was like I would see, I had like this Taoist, I had a Taoist monk appear in front of me.
Wow.
And the Dallas monk is like, oh, I'm you
Uh-huh.
from a past life. And he's
Wow.
standing in front of me. This is the middle of a ceremony. And basically, from his chakras, things start spiraling out to my chakras. And he was giving me a transmission of me and helping me have remembrance of that lifetime so I can embody that.
Yeah.
This when I was deep into like Taoist stuff. And I'm like, whoa, this is cool. And he was like, yeah, the reason why you're into this is because you were a Taoist monk in this lifetime. So
Hmm.
these lifetimes, we're going to bring those back in so you can re-resonate with them,
Hmm.
re-vibrate with them again so it can help you in the journey for this lifetime. And at a similar time, I had, in a journey, I get scooped up by these two guys in a spaceship. This is in
Hmm.
ceremony.
Hmm.
And they're like, yeah, we're your brothers. We're from the Pleiades.
Mm.
Like, this is your home. Do you remember? And they pick me up. This is when I'm like sitting, I'm like, I'm journeying. And they're like, and I'm traveling through these purple pyramids and I'm weaving and I'm just like stuff's whizzing past me. And I'm like, wow, this is wow. And then they're teaching too. They're like, well, I'm like, is there a government? Like the government is vibration.
Mm.
And it reminded me of like if you go to like I'm in West Africa, there's big is in Islam or different places like where Islamic countries and they over the loudspeakers in the morning, you hear
Yeah.
the you hear the chants. It reminded me of something like that
Hmm.
because it was basically like imagine somebody with a huge tuning fork, which is something similar that I saw in Atlantis,
Hmm.
actually. Because in Atlantis, the hospitals were replaced, they were color, sound, and actually they had comedians, like something similar to comedians.
Okay.
And it was really fascinating to watch this. I was like, wow. And even in the Citadel in the center, that was like almost like a big tuning fork. And it was just similar to what I saw in the Palladian Citadel.
Hmm.
But just like, yeah, we attune to this frequency, which harmonizes our health, mind, physical body. And it actually, we attune to this harmonization. And that was the government, you know,
Wow. That's
which means govern
fascinating.
your mind, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes so much sense because if you look at like what you were saying, those Islamic countries, I never thought of it like that until you just said it. But what they're doing is they're with the mantras and the chanting and the prayer, they're bringing out that frequency to everybody, and then everybody's vibrating at that same frequency. It's the same thing as that when people are at a concert or when
Yeah.
people at 7-Eleven play classical music and there's no violence around that 7-Eleven, or the teenagers don't want to hang out there for whatever reason, because they're vibing on a different frequency. So yeah, that's
Frequency,
amazing.
yo, that's why we have a retreat in Oaxaca coming up in a couple, well, I don't know when it's going to come out, but in October, um, called Frequency. So, and I'm doing a galactic language activation workshop, which I can share more about that I learned from Grandmaster Li Tien from Tuyin Gong, which
Hmm.
I was deep into at that time. And we're talking about field dynamics a lot. Like, who do we have to be to, as a seed, a kernel of energetics? and our frequency to manifest our external realities, one, but also just for the awakening,
Mm-hmm.
collective awakening. So like you mentioned that the Maharishi Institute did studies, that advanced meditators, we were talking about this morning, did studies on crime rates going down in DC if 30 people were meditating in a regular time period,
Mm-hmm.
because they were holding they were creating a frequency.
Mm-hmm.
Certain things are all apparent at different frequencies, just the same way we saw that certain realities are accessible when at certain frequencies.
For
Like
sure.
the bandwidth of what you can see, feel, and experience is frequency related.
Mm-hmm.
And so very similar to this. And you know, we're doing workshops around it, and that's why we hold Sangha. So yeah, so there's a lot of connections to that time period and when I was learning around, just being in spaces, and I'm like, wow, like, and even just the idea of ceremony, like collectively, like even with, dance, drum, like you're shifting your frequencies and you're inviting, and in a different thing, you're trying to mesh frequencies.
Right.
You're trying to get that's why people fast and they like, you need to raise your vibration, quote unquote, to be able to get insight. That's why you do at the same time, that time period, I was doing humblechas in South Dakota. I was that period, you're making me like, wow, that was a crazy period.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was working with the Lakota, and I did a 4-day vision quest in that time period. And I remember having to, you're not eating any food or water during
Right.
that 4 days. And I remember I didn't go there for that actually. I thought we were going to do like helping, help build fences. I was just going as a project from one of my classes, and we
Mm-hmm.
were going to do some like community service. So we drove out there from California all the way to South Dakota
Mm-hmm.
and Pine Ridge. And this guy, Basil Braveheart, I don't know if he's even still around anymore, but he was the leader at that time of the ceremony. And I have a lot of respect for those ways because they really just have a very simple but potent medicine
For sure.
and a lot of dream. And they kind of knew we were coming and all this stuff. It's kind of very mystical, but we kind of came for something. But the person who brought us there wasn't in good standings with them.
Mm.
When we got there, he was like, "Oh, he show up with all these people. No disrespect for your people, but he was supposed to come last week, and he wasn't in a good way."
Mm-hmm.
And then so I remember how they dealt with it. They all circled up and they had their staffs, and I almost felt like I was going to vomit. How the energy was so deep because they didn't
Yeah.
really chastise them, but they were like pointed out the situation. They were like, "You bought some things, but you bought some food, but it was spoiled. You bought some choice for the foods for the children, but they're all broken down."
Mm-hmm.
They're like, we think we need to see, but we think there's some coyote going on here. I was
Mm.
like, whoa. I'm like, what did I get brought into?
Dang.
I'm like, yo, I'm just here. I'm here to help, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm in this circle and I'm just like, oh my God. And then so they put us in this special prayer house. I think they call it Uwipis. I can't remember the name.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, you might see something in here, son. Wildest thing I've ever seen, really crazy experiences. You see spirits, lights floating around, all kind of stuff. And they were like, we do healings in here. You hear sounds, things aren't even, no, we're not even there.
Yeah.
Sitting on tables, you see things flapping around in the room. And then so what they did, just to get back to the Humblecha though, 'cause there's a lot of stuff you could talk about that. But the Vision Quest, they call it Humblecha. Before you go in, I'm in a the reason why I had to do Humblecha, by the way, is because we came at the wrong time. The time we came was right before for Sundance.
Okay.
All right, and they were like, we can't do this right now. We got Sunny, you know this. They were telling the
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just like, "Oh, whatever you guys need." So they're like, well, you got to go on the hill because you got to support the Sundance. I'm like, go on the
Yeah.
hill. Yeah, you need to do a for a Vision Quest.
You're going in, man.
And I'm like, what? Like, this is crazy. So this in a 2-week period, I'm there, and all these things happen. So we got the accelerated paths, like it was happening apparently. So then I'm in this sweat lodge, and they put the cedars on the grandfathers, and they started bawling, just like crying. And I didn't even know why. And they were like, "Oh, you're gonna have a vision." They just know all these things that happen. I'm like, I'm just, you know.
Yeah.
I'm like, at this point, I'm like 24, something
Yeah.
like that. And I'm having all these different experiences, and I'm just like, man, like life is wild. And then, so I'm up there, and then a snake goes in front of my path when I go to this other spot where I'm just trying to stay, and they have something that means something. So
Yeah.
all these things mean stuff. So then I go up on the hill. I'm there for 4 days, and the first day was really hard, but then the next 3 days, I'm like, I could stay here for a long time. I'm seeing the
Yeah.
sun.
After you get past the first 24 hours, it's you're cruising.
You're cruising. And I remember getting this vision. This toucan came, and the toucan was telling me about my path. And I suggest this for anyone when they're you're 16, you're 17, your early 20s, humblecha, 4 days, silence, nature.
No food, no water.
No
Just
water, no food. Just pray for the vision, be with the elements.
yeah, they call it at the camp that I go to, this is my third year, they call it a date with creator.
Date with creator.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And then so the toucan represented the rainbow. And mind you, on a drive up, that was triple rainbows, quadruple rainbow. It was rainbows all the way up, driving up. And I'm just like, whoa, it's a lot of rainbows. And you go big sky country. So it's a beautiful trip. And I'm just like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm on this journey. And the toucan was like, yeah, you're gonna harmonize a lot of these different spiritual traditions in a really authentic way.
Mm.
And you're gonna present, and you got a very specific medicine that you're gonna offer. Um, to the people, this humanity, and this is part of your path and your journey in this life. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. Because I was running while I was in, getting invited to all these different things, and the toucan really put it together for me. And then like the toucan wasn't even, it's not a part of that culture
Right.
necessarily, but the toucan has like this foliage, this all these different colors, and it was really deep. And that's what really got me deeper into to learning more about my Blackfoot ancestry too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's because my mom, because I was like, man, I have this connection in space. My mom's was really like, oh yeah, your grandmother would talk. Because I see pictures of my grandmother. She had this silver hair, braided. On my mom's side, my father's side was different. It's more like a West African vibration.
Hmm.
And then my mom's side, they live in Wisconsin mostly right now, and and I'm in the Midwest. And they were like, yeah, grandma always would talk about like the Blackfoot, da, da, da. But nobody really kind of looked into it, you know.
Yeah.
And but I was seeing pictures, and she's like, yeah, she's talked to these medicine people, and da, da, da. Like, but we Christian now, and da, da. You kind of got
Yeah.
colonized out.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, but then it got me back into that. But anyways, but yeah, so been
That's
talking
amazing. That's amazing. So it sounds like the toucan became one of your spirit guides, one of your power animals.
about yeah, power, yeah, exactly. Which I have a story about when I went to Costa Rica and I started seeing the toucans in Costa Rica. They fly around just everywhere in Costa
Yeah.
Rica.
Yeah.
And then I was like, it kind of stopped me in my tracks when I saw one the first time because I hadn't really seen, I hadn't thought about it too much since that time. I was like, oh, toucan, interesting. Toucan Sam. I have Fruity Loops, whatever. That's
Right.
my association. So I come from
Yeah.
Chicago again. I come from the hood, and I
Yeah.
got brothers that in and out of prison, drugs, drug life, gang life, and then so I'm having all these experiences like aliens traveling,
Yeah.
and I'm sort of just open, like whoa, and then have the toucan. So years later, when 15 plus years later, when I'm working with the team in Costa Rica, um, offering galactic language activation. I learned from Grandmaster Etienne and working with medicine circles over there and working with the indigenous communities there. And the toucan really like um, came and brought when I started seeing it, it really active, immediately felt revitalized.
Hmm.
And then I met this Rasta, which I have a whole thing about Rasta too. I could talk about when I was living in Brooklyn
Hmm.
after, before I came out to the West Coast.
Hmm.
But but I met this Rasta who was juicing, and then in his emblem at his juice spot was the toucan.
Oh, wow.
and he has all these different colors of juices, and he's just like so vibrant. He's just juices, and I'm just like, man, that's the life. Um, so it brought me back into like the earth frequencies, and drinking your medicine, drinking the earth.
Hmm.
Yeah, for a healing as a healing practice.
So that Rasta, he was only doing juice?
I mean, I mean, he made a bunch of different food too, but he was
Oh,
a
okay.
mostly a juicer, a smoothie,
Hmm.
like your sea moss and your, you know, he was big into that. But Rasta got me really because my aunt was was in a Black Panther party,
Hmm.
Chicago. So I remember doing certain dinners or whatever, a certain time period, she would come through and she would be squatting and she would be big into juicing and liquids. That's the first person to put me on. I was like, oh, interesting. Like she's into her health tips. Like, yeah, we need to like drink our meals some more and to clean out our digestive system. Da, da, da. My father was kind of like, yeah, whatever. My aunt's crazy. Like, but
Yeah.
yeah, my sisters, but like, I mean, there was a lot of respect, but it was, and then so the, by the time I got to um, University of Rochester, I was already, and also because I was poor, I was like, oh, I was like a raw vegan for a period. And I slimmed down over that first year because I came from the football team, basketball team, and I was like kind of cut.
Yeah.
And I had just like a lot of spiritual clarity, that time period too. And it was good. It's good for periods to definitely do that. I went in on that. And and it was also cheaper at the time too to
Yeah.
do that
Yeah.
because you had the card and you can do certain vegetables you could get from from the as if eating the food. But
Hmm.
then around that time I met some Rastas when I was in Brooklyn and there I have ITAL, So then I think some year, maybe 4 or 5 years after that, when I was in the West Coast, I actually flew to Jamaica and was up in the hills above Nigoro. And it turns out that the breadfruit, for example, that they put these folks who are like indigenous and African, and they put them on this island, and it's like, you're gonna, harvest cane for our
Hmm.
rum fields,
Hmm.
for our rum and our whole vertical integration of our alcohol business.
Hmm.
And it turns out later that these breadfruit has natural steroids. Like they put them in
Hmm.
complete paradise, coconut, all the things you need to be vibrant and strong. Now you look at the Rasta community and the Jamaican community is like really strong representative of the African nation.
Hmm.
It's like because they somehow it's like right there, and then it also near where they say Atlantis was at
Hmm.
too. We can go deep on like the reasonings of Von Benjamin and Midnight and some of the Rasta, which also has a lot of that Indian influence and the Sadhu influence too. If you look at Ethiopia and the influence of Rasta one, but that was a whole journey too in itself of
Yeah.
really connecting spirituality for a lot of people too. Like, the music of Bob Marley, for something to be so popular but also be so rebellious
Yeah.
too, and then but so popular. How was that? Um, and then but also like the teachings of His Majesty was really deep too during that time period. So again, I just sort of like the threads of truth, and
Yeah, yeah,
wisdom.
yeah. No, it's
Yeah.
beautiful. Uh, One question that comes through is, we talk, a lot of people talk about past lifetimes,
Yeah.
and people wonder, right? Like, what's the point? Like, okay, I get to see these things. I've had
Um,
different visions and different experiences of being native, being from the Columbia area in past lifetimes, and being a king of France and all these
mm,
things, right? And
mm,
and uh, and then it's like the deeper question is like, what? How is that helping in this reality, right? Like in this lifetime. And I really
yeah.
like what you said, how it's like these aspects for me were about like knowing that okay, I learned Reiki at some point, most likely in Japan or in Hawaii,
Mm,
with some of the first teachers that came to America in past lifetimes, or I had such these deep rooted connection to these teachings and to these modalities, right? That came so natural to me in this lifetime, you know? And it was, I think the the peace that these past lifetimes brought for me was this connection of how those aspects aren't different from this lifetime. I'm just remembering what I knew in those lifetimes and bringing it, embodying it again so that I don't have to search for it so deeply and do so much maybe traveling and exploring. These things just come in, the teachers just arrive so that I
Yeah.
can just get to that frequency that maybe I left off at in a past lifetime or was striving for in a past lifetime and couldn't
Yeah.
reach for whatever reason, right? Like maybe I got killed or I was in a battle or whatever, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for the evolution of the soul, of your soul, like it's
Yeah,
good. I mean, it could be, it depends on how you relate with that information.
yeah,
But I remember, it also brings in the conversation reincarnation,
yeah,
which is that could bring hope to someone. That
exactly.
could bring, you know, for me, when I knew, especially someone like I grew up in a really sort of like intense, sort of strict, and also we were poor, and it was household, and I was kind of like, this can't be it, like,
Yeah,
and I remember feeling trapped almost,
yeah.
and I was like, wow, like how did I end up here, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember many different conversations, like experiences where um I had past life regression work done or had divinatory work done with different teachers, um, or had medicine journey work where it is divinatory, or there's actually just dream space.
Mm-hmm.
There's many different ways to access, but I remember um, I did this thing called um, what a telekinesis. It was a it's transformative telekinesis. Transformative. Um, what do you do with the muscle testing? Kinesiology.
Yeah, kinesiology, yeah.
Yeah. And this woman worked with me. I can't find her. I'm just trying to find her. Maybe someone else can offer this too. I imagine somebody offers it now. But we did kinesiology, you muscle tests, and we went. She was like, "Where are you?" I'm here. And we did, yes, yes. No, no, like boom, boom. So you do all the muscle testing. And then I sort of very suggestible in a sense. I'm easy to go work with the subconscious. And then so I went back to like 13. I was like, shit, what year is this? Like 1370. I'm in Peru. I'm a priest. Um, all these things was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And like I died in the cave and whatever, all this
Mm-hmm.
stuff was happening in that. And then I was like, wow, that piece reminds me of this other journey. So you start to piece it all together. And
Mm-hmm.
you start to get a map. So all
Yeah.
the different modalities started to happen. Then I was in ceremony in Peru. And then I got some other pieces of that. Not that I was going to get, I wanted to go get pieces of that lifetime where I was practicing, I had got in trouble. I was practicing black magic as
Mm-hmm.
a leader. And then so part of the whole journey was like reestablishing kingship, reconciliation, reconciliation, repair, repair. So that whole, diet that I was on was all about clearing that karmic energy for
Mm-hmm.
that. Then I was working with this guy who does neurocranial restructuring, this guy, Dr. Dean Howell. And he learned this practice as a chiropractor. He learned this practice that he channeled from Atlantis, actually. Speaking about Atlantis a lot today.
Yeah.
And he would work with babies. He said in Atlantis, for maximum capacity and possibility for their life, they would make sure that their skulls were rounded out for their brain to fill out the space.
Yeah. That
And
makes sense.
so he would stick something up the nose that would pop open the skull.
Yeah.
Right? You know this?
Yeah, one of my buddies on one of the previous podcasts, Dr. Kirk, he talked about this, and he said that it shifts so much for people
Yeah.
because it's just like a little balloon you put up there and it
Yeah.
just restructures the face and
Yeah.
people can see better, people can hear better, people have better cognition afterwards. There's all these
Absolutely.
miraculous things that happen. I really want to go and see him and get that done for sure.
Yeah, I want to do the training because it's also it restructures the skeletal. You can be bent over.
Yeah.
He's like the skeleton actually hangs. He's like, you got to think about the skeleton actually is something that hangs.
Hmm.
And then he's like, it was like, wow, this is deep. And then so, anyways, I'm on the table with him. He's popping out. We do 4 sessions. Sometimes you got to get different shoes after this. You do 4 sessions over a weekend.
You mean like actual physical shoes?
Physical shoes because you're changing. He's like, we do a lot of spiritual work, but we don't do enough structural bone work of shifting.
Oh, okay.
So he changes your actual structure. Like
Yeah,
I want to go back to him actually because over time things shift.
yeah.
But he has all these pictures in his office of things like people bent over, elders getting all kind of facial structure, all kinds of stuff.
Hmm.
So I remember immediately he did that, and I would start crying. I'm on the table, he's doing the work, and I immediately see because it's in your bones too, these lives, right? So
Yeah.
work is really important. And then so I'm a chief in the plains, and my medicine man had passed away, and everybody's dying of smallpox. It was very clear and vivid.
Hmm.
And I'm having a conversation with, well, I'm telling stories to the children, and they're all sitting around. But I remember feeling like it was bleak because I knew that more death was coming, and I knew that I was just trying to hold on to hope, basically. Um, and I think it's sort of tied to my organizational work now, like where I'm like in this energy, I'm like, wow, we gotta help people, we gotta save people, we gotta do this because of his past life. And he was on the table with me, and he's like, this happens all the time. And I'm bawling. I'm like completely just, but for days, I feel like I was like crying, I was just like weeping. And he was like trying to coach me. He's like, yo, like that was then, and you did the best you could. You did the best you could to let it go. Like it was the plague came. And imagine, and I'm feeling emotional, feeling out. Like it's like everything's good, then all of a sudden people start dropping like flies. Like even your medicine man is taken out. And somehow I was still alive. And I was trying to tell the story to the children of hope. And so this happened when I was on the table and I was able to clear more of that. It was in
Hmm.
my bones. And
Yeah.
also I remember my crown chakra opened up. I remember just having insights. Like, wow. Like I just knew stuff.
Yeah.
Like it was just like and then I had a memory before that though of me being 3 or 4 that I had forgot about. Me falling down the steps and hitting my head.
Oh, wow.
Falling down the steps. I had to remember I tumbled down the steps and I hit my crown and it indented my crown. Imagine how that affected my life.
Yeah.
Going like the structural changes
Yeah.
happen in life and why things happen when they happen. It's really deep, really deep.
For sure. I even think that like certain scars that we have on our body when we're born, like birthmarks and things like
Yeah,
that, are related or like little pieces of the puzzle, of like
yeah.
helping us remember something from past lifetimes or like, like my friend's son has like a scar on his stomach and I wonder like maybe he got speared there or who knows,
Mm,
right? Like what could have happened?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, Grandmaster ETN talked about this too. He's like, yeah, no, these things transfer over. The soul is continuous, but you can see marks, all these things from different times. I remember I was going through a breakup with the mother of my son, and I was working with my friend, very good cat, Dove Moses. He's in Nevada City, and he does theta healing.
Hmm.
Heard of this, but he's very also lucid, and he goes into the past life stuff, and he just knows he trusts himself, and so I'm like, man, like, what's my like relationship with my baby moms? We having some journey, like some issues, and then boom, immediately when because she's Jewish,
Hmm.
and then immediately boom, and I remember one thing, we worked a lot together. She works on a lot of racial justice work, yeah, environmental justice work. We work in a lot of same similar spaces in that during that time period. Um, We met around like 2007 or something like that, 2008.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but she immediately, and even I remember when we had our son, it was around breaking the chains of slavery. Like we
Mm.
were big into like abolition movement stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I remember, boom, all of a sudden he was talking. He was like, "Yeah, you guys shared um, space. You were a enslaved in the South. She was the wife of the slave owner,
Wow.
and then you guys had an extramarital affair. She got pregnant. He wanted to kill both of you. You had
Mm-hmm.
to flee. The baby was born, and you tried to periodically come and visit, but it was kind of like difficult. But you came to the north and you started to get deeper into you became a speaker and you started talking about abolition
Mm-hmm.
work and this type of thing. And that's some of the work we sort of were doing into. And
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that was a light. And I was like, wow, that was deep. And
Yeah.
then the only reason why I know that was deep though, thing about it though, is that I had an I had past life regression work where something very, very similar happened in the past life regress. I'm like in the South. Like so what she would do in terms of this question around why past lives and why what is it relevant for?
Yeah.
She would ask, um, she's like, bring me to let's go journey to the lives that are most relevant for your evolution in your current lifetime. It's to
Yeah.
help your current lifetime. Like, what is it? Because there's so many different lives you can go to.
Yeah.
And then so somehow I kept going to this one. And then so I didn't this particular one, the past life regression work with this woman, I didn't see all the relationship stuff with my big moms. It was more about this abolition piece. It was like, yeah, you fled, you were working on the docks, you were coming from the South for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
I saw myself initially on the ground. I was gardening, I was farming. I felt like I was really healthy. And then she was like, okay, let's bring it back forward another, 10 years or whatever. Oh, 10 years, I'm in the north. I can see myself. I'm on the dock. I'm working with a group of people. It wasn't really getting paid that much, but I feel like I was taken in by the Quakers. And then I was like Quakers, and Quakers work a lot with the abolition movement. So I started, start piecing these things together.
Yeah.
So it's really bizarre because recently I just read about lucid dreaming, and there was a guy who popularized lucid dreaming that was working with that the CIA took a lot of his papers and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
maybe working for them at one point. But he taught him, so he did experiments where he taught himself, forget his name, but he taught himself how to make himself aware that he was in a lucid dream.
Right.
So he gave himself signals and he like primed himself like with like, different devices.
Yeah.
And he noted that there was multi dimensions of reality because that, and maybe this is maybe like a dream space that we're living in a required reality, which relates to a lot of different like spiritual texts and teachings talk about this reality as dreamlike,
Mm-hmm.
not a dream. So, or The Matrix, which I think is the best documentary we got.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. And then so he was even to the point people were saying, "What are you doing here?" in his dream. 'Cause he was somehow like moving around and navigating. We have a lot of like memento, a lot of different dreams,
Mm-hmm.
dream movies that talk about the layers of dreams and levels of dream. And then so reality is really stranger than fiction, in a lot of ways. But I think what it speaks to is that there's something that's consistent.
Yeah.
That's not this thing that we say is, oh, who these people are. There's something that's consistent that travels on beyond the blink of an eye that this life is.
Right.
And we take some things from that, some wisdom, some learnings. And there's a point in which that might have been in. Maybe there's a nirvanic space. Some part of the Tibetan Buddhists, they're like, yeah, we actually want to end this dream. We
Right.
don't we don't want to keep coming back. And we already know all that. We know that they're not trying to be convinced about this. We don't need science to tell them. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because we sat and we did self-inquiry for all these years. So we know that we can travel to different dimensions. We know that there's alien life, there's all these things. We're not distracted by that. We understand that there's a reality, there's a samsara, and there's an illusion, and there's certain things that are continuing on, and awakening to those things is what the purpose is. So, and this is just a school for all that, which I'm
Yeah.
just, yeah. So it is, but it's interesting, right, to note all those things, though. Yeah,
Yeah, and it makes me think that it's not, we call it past lifetimes, but it's really parallel lifetimes. Like those lifetimes are probably happening all at the same time right now, just in another
yeah,
dimension. And,
yeah.
like certain things would happen in my life that I would be like, yo, that's crazy. Like I had an ex-girlfriend who I had a vision of her being my daughter, and I was a Native American chief, and she got kidnapped by another tribe, and it all got sparked when this guy like threatened to shoot her down in Costa Rica, in this
Oh,
reality, right? And I was
wow.
like, oh my God, and it like all flooded back in that moment, and I'm like, whoa, this is wild,
He's like,
right?
whoa, I'm committing incest right now.
Well, yeah, it was just, I mean, that
Yeah,
depth of love was just
yeah,
so
absolutely,
so deep there, and like
absolutely, yeah,
and so innocent and so pure,
yeah,
and like
yeah.
and in that moment it was just so wild to like, but like that happens all the time, right? Like where we come back as these characters in this dream, right? Like you
Yeah.
said, and we've had all these different relationships. Like with my father in this lifetime, uh, I've seen that I was his um, like helper, and he was like this monk in India where he would go and stay in the Himalayas, and I would
Hmm.
go and bring him water and things like that for
Hmm.
sustenance,
Yeah,
and in this lifetime he's kind of like repaying me for all the service that I gave to him in that lifetime. So,
yeah.
it's really fascinating, those kind of things,
Wow.
and they make sense too, because like his father in this lifetime was his kid in that lifetime, who he left them to go and be a monk, and just like dropped all of his worldly duties to go be a monk, but he had karma with that, and so his dad left him in this lifetime as a young
Hmm.
boy so he could like clear out that karma and feel the repercussions of that.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
wild.
Indeed.
It's wild. It goes really deep, and this kind of stuff. It's like I don't know if science will ever catch up to it. At least not maybe in my lifetime. But either way, it gives reasoning, and because in these spaces, these medicine spaces, these spaces that we go into to receive this insight and knowledge, they're just as real as this reality, if not more. And this morning, my girlfriend, she asked me, she said, why do you think we forget our dreams?
Hmm. Hmm.
And I thought that was really interesting, because in meditation you can tap back into them and
Hmm.
and go into those spaces. But that was, what do you think? What do you think? Why do you think we forget our dreams?
Yeah, I think for the same reason that I mean, just like sensory overload,
Yeah.
and then, so many overlapping things. It can be what we call psychosis,
Hmm.
but I think it's more just like a balance of, okay, we're gonna deal with this one,
Yeah.
and then we're gonna deal with that one, then we deal with, because otherwise we can. I mean, when we need to, we can tap into all the different spaces. Good to know. And a lot of the, coaches over the years, we like intentionally, we're like, okay, we're gonna access more Akashic record or things like this because we want to have more sense of knowing. But I
You
think it
know,
would be,
yeah,
yeah,
for sure, for sure. The Akashic Records is fascinating to me,
yeah,
because that's exactly what we're tapping into when we're accessing all these past lifetimes or parallel lifetimes.
yeah,
And
yeah. I mean,
the
imagine
most
if you were getting all of them at the same time. Imagine if you saw, like, you want to watch a football game on a certain channel, but you just have you couldn't pay attention to the football game. You'd be like, all these channels, like, whoa, like,
I gotta have some friends that they have that skill, or that gift of seeing past lifetimes like that, like
Mhm.
on command basically, and and they go through a lot because they're clearing all that
Yeah.
stuff while they're going through the earthly matrix stuff, and it's a
Yeah.
lot. It's heavy.
It's a
It can
lot.
be really heavy. Uh,
Yeah.
and the most convincing story for me, and I just have to mention it because it was fascinating. This I had a patient when I was working in physical therapy who during COVID went into a coma for 3 months, and she came out of the coma and she told me what she experienced in her coma, and
Mm,
she remembered everything. She said she was living on another planet. She had, you know, a community where there was all self-sustaining. You know, she was fit in that lifetime. She looked different. She had a whole family. She had all these experiences, lived a whole lifetime in the
mm,
course of those 3 months that she was in a coma in this lifetime.
mm.
And then she came back, and that kind of like sparked her awakening to realize that this was also possible and happening, and time isn't linear, and it's not, what we perceive as a second
Yeah.
here could be a whole lifetime in another dimension or in another planet or whatnot.
Yeah, there's so much freedom in that.
Yeah.
It's more, what I feel when I hear that, I feel like, and I'm remembering the expansiveness and the freedom I felt. Like, oh, this isn't it. Like,
Hmm.
this is a slither. So then it can sort of take things more lightly and take things more in stride. But also it informs this lifetime so much and gives you a sense of like validation for like the thing, impulses and intuitions that you have. Or like, actually, no, it's cool. I can go this path.
Yeah.
I can do this. That's cool that she had the experience. Yeah, near-death experiences, NDEs are very illuminating, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also fascinating. The book, I don't know if you've read it, it's called Journey of Souls.
I feel like I've heard this. Yeah.
So in that book, they talk about,
Oh, this is a psychiatrist
yeah, yeah,
who,
yeah.
oh yeah, I do. Yeah, I love that book. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. Where
Yeah.
he interviews 40 different cases of
Yeah.
near-death experiences, and
Yeah.
he's like, "Yo, every single person, they didn't know each other. They went into that theta state when he would be in hypnosis, and
Right.
they would share across the board that they would meet with their guides and their guardians when they left this body, and they would be like, okay, did you pass these lessons,
Yeah.
did you learn the things you came to learn? Most of them didn't. That's why they came back into the body.
Mhm.
And sometimes he would say some of the older souls, like what we're talking about, right, they would just like show the guardians, like, or their whatever you want to call them, right? Like those beings that they would meet,
Mhm.
they would say like, okay, yeah, I'm good. I know what I messed up on. I know what I got to do. I'm going back, and and
Like, don't even tell me, don't even mention it.
yeah, like I
I
got it.
got it.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
I know what I messed up
Understand.
on.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating because, the more I walk on this path, the more reassurance it gives me to be like, okay, right now I'm going through a very specific lesson, right? Like, okay, I feel this trigger. What is it teaching me, right? Like, why? It's not
Mm.
about why is this happening to me? Because that was the
Right.
original question that when I was younger,
Right. Why
it's
is this
like, okay,
happening?
what am I trying to, what's spirit trying to teach me here, right?
Hmm.
And in that space, it's like, oh, okay, let's go a little deeper. What is it that I'm not fully embodying, or where am I playing small, or where am I not stepping into like higher purpose or service or something that I know isn't fully fulfilling me, but I'm doing
Yeah.
it because it's giving me income, or it's providing some sort of illusion of Maya in this reality, right?
Hmm.
And then with these eclipses, like we were talking about before the call, it's like all that starts to blow up in my face sometimes, and I'm like, okay, I really, I really can't be, I have other things that I need to be doing that are more aligned for what I'm here to do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, those experiences, you know, have help you leverage. It gives you insight and you can utilize and leverage those insights to help your spiritual evolution and your growth while you're in the physical world.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's very useful because otherwise just an experience.
Yeah.
But if you like, okay, how am I getting, you get meaning from it in a certain kind of way, and you apply it like you've done, and you're like, oh, that makes me think hearing about the near death experiences and what happens at the end of life for some people makes me think about my triggers in a certain kind of way and how I can respond to situations versus getting just reacting and wondering why things are happening to me. Like things are
Right.
happening for me, It also gets me into things about simulations and the idea that the world, this is a whole simulation. One of my tantra teachers is big into this right now. And it's just like, whoa, mind blowing.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah, man. It's really, really it's a trip. I mean, the synchronicities and the magic, like you were saying, like those aspects keep it interesting. It keeps it flowing. And then sometimes, like during the eclipse season, for me, it can get intense, and it's like,
yeah,
okay, that's a really deep one. Who knows how long in my lineage? Who knows how long in my in how many reincarnations I've had where I've been trying to clear this thing.
yeah.
And it makes me also think about how the older souls
Hmm.
uh, start their life with a lot of trial and tribulation, and then that allows them to relate and help people that are maybe in those spaces or trying to come out of those spaces, or people can just relate differently when they've actually
Yeah,
been there.
right. Yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
and I see that with some of the oldest. I have an intuition. I think you and I are both very intuitive men, and I have a very like I have an intuition of and a sense when somebody's been around for a while, right? Like been coming to
Mm.
Earth for a
Hmm.
while or been
Yeah,
an older soul, right? And with those people, when I talk to them, the majority of them started with some really tough times, like a
yeah,
lot of poverty, a lot of that kind of stuff that where
right.
they had to experience it to for that duality, right? To see like you were saying,
Hmm.
this isn't it. This isn't what I came here for. I had that feeling, and I'm getting chills all through childhood and all through high school and college. I'm like, I just got to get through this, right? To get to
Right.
what I'm really here
Gotta get
for.
through this. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, I'm like going through the steps, and it's like, okay, this is not it, but I guess I got to do it to get to the next thing.
Hmm.
And there wasn't really another option. I didn't have an option to be homeschooled or to go to like a school where they a more spiritual school, as you might call it, right? Like a school where they really start to amplify and grow our gifts and like and really tap into the things that we're as kids we already know we're here to do.
Yeah, so you got the contrast, the
Yeah.
contrast. Like Abraham Hicks talks a lot about the contrast, like,
Hmm.
the things that we don't want to experience, or, actually when we get how quote unquote bad that or intense that is, or um, don't want to feel that emotion or that way, then it also catapults us to be that solution for something different.
Hmm.
So the contrast is actually like creates impetus,
Hmm.
creates energy and force towards the things that's deepest at our core, you
For
know.
sure. For
Yeah.
sure. So, you mentioned a Japanese style of modality. Uh, I'd love to hear more about that. Can you share a little bit about how you found that or how it found you? And I know you're going to Japan soon to study that a little deeper, right?
Yeah, so around 2000. So first of all, I flew when I went to undergrad in New York. I went to grad school in Palo Alto, but I lived in South San Francisco, or like by San Francisco State University,
Hmm.
um, which I ended up teaching at later. But you know, down the street from where I lived was Sukimari, this dojo, the San Francisco dojo.
Hmm.
And the interesting about that is that I walked past it a couple times and didn't go in, but I was really curious about it.
Hmm.
And they were like, wow, that never really happens because usually only people get invited to come in. And it's only, and the ancestors communicate and invite people in,
Hmm.
is what they say. And like it's an ancestral thing that calls people to the space.
Hmm.
It's not just like by happen chance you walk into the space. Um, so basically I'm like in the neighborhood, then I meet this guy named Happy. He has like gray dreadlocks, wears all white, still wears all white. And he has a cane or something like this. That's also a flute, like this like character, right?
Nice.
And he's like, "Oh, you know about the D dojo? Oh, interesting." He's like, "I'm a member there." He's
Uh-huh.
like, "When you get to receive light." So he starts like giving me light, and I have an experience with that. I'm like, "This is different." So eventually, I go to the dojo.
What is that? Can you elaborate on that? What do you mean by giving you light?
Okay, so light. So light is so I have. I'm actually wearing a necklace now. It's the Omitama, which is a necklace that is part of the tradition of Sukimari Carida that you give light with. Sukyo means universal principles. Sukimari Kari means universal principles of divine light
Okay.
or the art of true light, right? And then so what happens is you, and what they explain is that, and this is, you have your experience where you go in, all the explanations happen like later when you take courses and stuff like this.
Hmm.
But right now, you just go in, you're sort of like your eyes are closed. You know, people give you for 45 minutes, there's different points. You get light here, like energy, like this much from your head, giving light coming out the palm of the hand. And they do a prayer, the Kododama of the Amatsu prayer.
Hmm.
Goku Ichiso Gingen Shikai Takamanini. And it's a prayer that calls upon the infinitesimal particles of the universe, focuses it, and also calls upon some deities too that are responsible for light, bringing light through the darkness. And the whole reason for it is to purify negative energies from this lifetime, previous lifetimes, and also from the ancestors
Hmm.
to help you spiritually elevate. Because in this time, what they're saying, or Shimi-sama, the sort of founders of this, is that we have now been granted the opportunity to give light beyond having to do the years, many, many years of skill of development that it would take to actually give this level of frequency of light. So now, you know, the Omitama is going to purify us as we give it, but also it purifies the other person too. And it's for this time period where souls are becoming, then it's necessary to have purification.
Hmm.
Otherwise, there'd be more dramatic things or more traumatic things happening in the physical plane. So we purify to create harmony, health, and wellness, and wealth, prosperity.
Okay, I have a
Um,
quick question. So as you're receiving this light, does it feel any different from like receiving Reiki, for example?
yeah, because Reiki, it feels to me, it's like it depends on who's giving Reiki to me.
Uh-huh.
And with this, it's like very consistent, but still it's different every time too. But also I may be different. Like, you know, same thing in Reiki too. Like it all depends all the different times.
Yeah.
How much I'm eating, who's giving the light, all that. But in Sukimari Kari, they have it's more consistent to me because it's like, okay, I kind of know, and you can just feel it. But also afterwards, because the whole what they say describe the whole thing with Sukimari Kari is that it's spiritual light to your spiritual body. So
Hmm.
it's energy from God that's going to your spiritual body that supersedes your physical, emotional, all these different bodies. And it's like the idea that the head of the stream receives is cleaned, then bottom stream, which is the physical body in this context, is also purified.
Hmm.
So it's a very cool, and it's free, and it's like something that you have I've had detox phenomena, you
Oh
know,
wow.
yeah, where I'm like, or I've given light to people and they start crying, or sometimes it has a little Shinto based part of it, or sometimes there is folks manifest where you're receiving like where meaning that the spirit may come through that's attached to them and may communicate to them. So it's all about like spiritual disturbance. So it's a little bit more like this shamanic piece to it, but although it's very high vibration and really like works at a level of like source energy direct.
What's
Yeah.
you mentioned Oshinko. What's that?
Shinto?
Yeah.
Oh, Shinto is like a more like a indigenous practice of Japan.
Okay.
Shinto, which is like it's more animistic, more like ancestral worship, more had this piece, more deities,
Mm-hmm.
more, so it's more like that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so it has pieces of that. But this is Sukio Marikari is like this guy mostly kind of like divineness. He like had a bunch of issues and then he got the download for this.
Mm-hmm.
He was told to raise his hand. He didn't even have an Omitama,
Mm-hmm.
which is the necklace. Omitama's and he doesn't even steal it. He doesn't carry the Omitama like that. And then so, but he was told by God, he's like, yo, in order to, he was dealing with health issues, financial issues, all these different things. And it's like, raise your hand, give light. So he had to be in service to clear, which is really that resonates with a lot of different traditions and things too. Like clear your tapas in India. They talk about your tapas. They
Mm-hmm.
talk about your sangatas, your karmic accruals, be in service, which is the path, the
Mm-hmm.
seva, you know,
Yeah.
the bhakti even too, devotion. But yeah,
Yeah.
so
That's really beautiful. And the crystal is it a very specific type of crystal?
which crystal?
The when you wear the light.
Oh, this doesn't have a crystal.
Oh, okay.
This is like a locket that gets infused. This is more, I don't know, this is very mystical. Like it's
Okay.
mysterious in the sense that you can't really open it. It gets fused with light
Okay.
and special sensors in Japan
Mm-hmm.
that really creates a spiritual cord. It's really about the spiritual cord that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's not yeah, it's just a locket,
Okay. Okay.
basically. Yeah. But it
Okay.
has energy infused in it and it also represents this like spiritual cord that you have with God that
Okay.
allows you to give this light and light come through you, this high
Beautiful.
frequency. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. So, do you have to go through an attunement process, or how do
Yeah,
you
there's a
initiate?
first class called a Kinshu.
Mm-hmm.
The first training is 3 days. You can fall asleep doing it, but it's really like a Shintai, the main shrine opens up.
Mm-hmm.
And then so the energy is really bright and you feel when you leave, you feel like you melted some energetic toxins.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Then after that, you have the intermediate course, which I'm doing in 2 days. I'm in Colorado now, but I'm flying to Rancho Santa Margarita. And that's what intermediate course. I already done it, but I had to do it again in order to do advanced course, which is what I'm doing in Japan,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm looking forward to. But that's what all the staff nationally, internationally go to
Uh-huh.
in in Takayama, where they have the shrines and things like that.
And
But
then you'll be able to initiate people after that?
well, potentially I can be able to teach or whatever, but it's more like you get a bigger Omitama, you're able to be more of service. You help whenever you do this, you help your ancestry
Mm-hmm.
and you elevate spiritually in the spiritual realm, you elevate.
Mm-hmm.
Like because you clear so much energy for on behalf of your elders and behalf of your ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
So you're able to clear a lot of more energy
Yeah.
and actually be more in service. And only use it, and you get requested to go to the these next courses. Like
Okay.
it's like energetically, the ancestors and the dojo show kind of sees all this, and they go, "I think you're ready for this course,"
Mm-hmm.
and it means you're spiritually elevating.
Beautiful.
I've definitely seen that. I was like,
Yeah,
man,
yeah.
yeah, I can't believe how much I've cleared with this practice.
Wow.
It's one of my like between now it's like meditation and Sukimari Cardia are my top integration practices for sure.
Okay. And with meditation, what are you holding any mudras? Are you doing any specific type of breath work, or any visualizations, or is it just silent meditation at this point for you?
Yeah, I love just all silence. But I mean, even when I'm doing silence though, I'm doing what my teacher, Samirji, teaches, which is like in the classical tantra and also in Vipassana, is anapanasati.
Hmm.
Focus is just like noticing the breath coming in and out of the nose, noticing it on the nose. You're noticing how cool it is, how warm it is, and you're just noticing your breath like
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
And that practice alone, man, I've been getting really into it the past like 4 or 5 months, and just the consistency around it,
Hmm.
game changer, game changer. And
What are
meditation
you
is like
giving yourself
crucial.
a certain amount of time each day?
Yeah, it depends. Sometimes I give myself 30 minutes, sometimes an hour. When we have
Hmm.
Sangha, we do an hour of silence.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm. Beautiful.
let's try to do that once a week together as a community. You have a potluck afterwards. But yeah.
I love it. Yeah. So is there any other centers around the country that you know of?
Yeah, most states, like they have one in New York, they have one, depends on where you're at, they have centers. Or they have light givers, people who give light, who, for whatever reason, move there and they have a network, and there's a list you can check and text them and be like, hey, I'm in town.
Hmm.
Obviously, I've been in places around the world. In Brazil, it's really big,
Hmm.
these spots. Anywhere I go, like I ask, I'm like, yo, is there a light giver here? And if somebody will pop up and you already know what it is, they're
Yeah.
gonna do the claps, the bows, the prayer, and it's very consistent like that. It's really a really great system.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it clears, you feel it. You feel it. You feel like you've cleared, you do the light to your kidneys, light to the back of your head, remove spiritual disturbances, attached spirits, but also you purified your blood, you've cleared your third eye, and you're ready and you feel more. I feel more like present and more like just clean,
Hmm.
after. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to find and see if there's somebody in Vegas that offers that.
Yeah, there is. There is. I can check in too, but
Cool.
I'm sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think this is a good segue to kind of talk about all the different organizations and things that you're doing
Okay.
now and where things have evolved for you.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I can sing some Ambil. Yeah, so I mean, it's hard to talk about an organization now without talking about the pandemic.
Hmm.
So during the pandemic, even before the pandemic, actually, I made a song called Vaccination. It was controversial. But I ended up they flew me out to CDC in Atlanta, these moms. Because the song is about these songs, right? I mean, about these moms who were having injuries.
Hmm.
Basically, their children were like, and they weren't being listened to by the pharmaceutical companies. Surprise there, right?
Right.
And then and they were telling me before the pandemic, like, yes, something's about to happen. They're like doubling down on this. They really want to get these out. And I'm like, they're not going to design a whole thing for just to sell more of these things or whatever. You interpret that however that's my experience. That's what happened. That's what they said.
Hmm.
I was at the CDC. I had my experience. I'm giving light there. And I noticed it's a military operation. I was like, this is a military operation. This isn't like they don't care about, they're like maybe creating diseases. This is 2019.
Right.
So you can call me whatever, conspiracy theorist, whatever. But I was there. I saw it. I went with the moms. And I think moms are amazing activists. They have nothing to lose. I
Hmm.
always listen to the moms. They're moms. They're like, they have nothing. They were just like, no, like, so they were so grateful I made the song that like, we're flying you out for support and energy and giving like awesome. So lo and behold, the pandemic happens. I met this woman, Sochi Bernadette Moreno, and everything 2 weeks, it was like a weekend, and I'm like, nah, this is about to go on for a long time. He was like, no, it's gonna be another week. I'm like, nah, they're not playing. They got us all in the crib.
Hmm.
The house, they're like, they're about to go in on us. I don't
Yeah.
know what's gonna happen, but so I'm like, you know what? I had a juice company before. So I have all these juicers, all this stuff. I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna make, juice. for people. So I'm selling juice, I'm selling mushroom chocolates. I'm like hustling because I was doing right before that I was doing Lyft rapper, so I was doing Lyft. I was sponsored by Lyft. I was doing this. People get in the car, they give me a topic and a style of music, and I make up a song on the spot.
Oh, that's awesome.
So Lyft rapper. I think I took down the website at this point, but so I was doing that beforehand. So all that stopped. So
Hmm.
I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna still continue to support the community. And again, my Black Panther ancestors, all that stuff popped in. I'm like, nah, we need to just like feed people and like take care of people, like, take care of the community. I'm not staying inside. I'm gonna like go out and take care of people, do
Hmm.
the opposite. And
Yeah.
then I met somebody else who was like on that. We were getting, it was so much food that was being thrown away because the restaurants were closed down.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it was still people hungry on the street.
Yeah.
So we were like, let's distribute that food.
Hmm.
And there was a lot of like farms that were going fallow.
Hmm.
Right? Well, they had extra surplus and they were just throwing away the food.
Right.
Food was rotting. And then a lot of people lined up at the food banks. So we were taking food. I had my juicer. I juiced it, made it compressed it. All these refrigerations full of like just massive amounts of food.
And this was all happening in Atlanta?
No, I had the CDC was in Atlanta, and then I flew back. The
Okay.
Center for Disease Control.
Okay. So you were in
But
Oakland at that point.
I'm in Oakland at this time,
Uh-huh.
and then so she was already getting the bags of food from Oakland Unified School District because they had closed and had all this extra food,
Hmm.
and they were already on this tip of mutual aid of like distributing food to people who need it around the community, elders, community members, whatever,
Hmm.
houseless folks. So we combined forces and we said, oh, let's just get food from the Oakland Unified School District, which some of the food also was like, man, it's not even the best food. I don't
Exactly.
want to eat that. Why would I even give this food to people?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
wait a minute, why are that children? You're like, what's going on? So I was like, nah, we need to create essential food and medicine. So within a week, we created the organization, Essential Food and Medicine.
Wow.
And we were like, what's essential is food and medicine. It's always been essential. Like we
Right.
had a conversation around essential workers and stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, we can, for some reason, during the pandemic where everyone has to be inside, the liquor stores can be open and folks can still, and Amazon can still make money. And, I was like, something's going on. Like, I can still order a bunch of alcohol and whatever, but you're concerned about my health. And this is something's weird. So I was like, no, we're going to juices, smoothies, natural medicines directly to people. They was like, no, that's not going to work. You need to just get this one product that's going to help you. They're like, I'm like, nobody thinks this is weird. And then in the TV every day just telling you like you're gonna die and like you gotta get this one thing. And then I was like, I know I go on the streets, right? Like this is the biggest hustle. Like I know a hustler. I got
Yeah.
my uncle's a pimp, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like so, anyways, so I'm like peeping all this. We're like, nah, let's go out. So we do juicy smoothies. And I'm like, we're in a camp. And one thing was touching is that the people that were these campments, the neighbors, our relatives that were outside. So she talks about this. She's like, she was going to like split town, right? Skip town and split. And then one of our neighbors unhoused was like, man, I know you into teas. Sorry, I'm not going to door late, but I just want to give you this tease. I found it just so you know, hopefully this can help you through this time. And she knew in that moment that she had to stay. And she had to stay and she had to take care of her neighbor. Like, what more resilient thing to do? So we use it, and the Tantra principle, obviously, too. It's using the crisis moment for the evolution, for the, how do you transform that?
Yeah.
Like, you would transform the poison, you know, into, into medicine. And
Hmm.
then so that's what we did, essential food and medicine. And I gave light to all the juices, and we distributed it and then it became a big saver. So that created essential food and medicine. So that's the first project. Then
Hmm.
after that we had um Celestial Church. Well, it started off as that, and then it had Celestial Church got started. And that was working with the elders, the teachers. We traveled more during the pandemic than I've traveled in a long time. Like it was a evolutionary jump, actually, if you used it
Oh
like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And then so some people got more repressed. And then but all these elders working with the Yawanawa, the different teachers, elder, we brought them here, we traveled down there, different teachers. And also so that started that work with more medicines in a structured space. But then what happened is the folks who were working when we had these relationships over 2 years in the pandemic, they were like, yo, where are you going on the weekends and over 3 months over here? We're dealing with fentanyl, we're dealing with meth, and I'm tired of this.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of merged that a little bit and
Mm-hmm.
we created Celestial Church, but we also created the illicit detox recovery program. So people dealing with fentanyl, dealing with different addictions. And in general, we wanted to make sure there was access for those. Because, because we live in a capitalist societies, those folks were getting priced out of medicines that really is a part of their heritage. And
Mm-hmm.
a part of their, they weren't able to have access to their own medicine that would get them out of the chemical warfare that we're living in.
Yeah.
We were like, all right, wait a minute. Because we can do eviction defense, seem like, hey, don't evict these people from these places. But I was like, what's the real liberation here? And what are quick, easy access points? Like, so I was looking at that. Like, how do we like liberate communities? So that's when esphera was born, because we realized, oh, wait a minute, there's more than just one organization. There's 3 projects, I should say, under this umbrella called esphera, which means sphere, the circle, because it
Mm-hmm.
really the circle of life. And then Celestial Church started. Then we did Earth Amplified, which is the media,
Mm-hmm.
because we're all musicians, and then social is a big. We have a documentary we're working on called Ancestral Medicine, Healing the Streets, which we have a fundraiser going for now, which documents this journey of as ancestral medicine is being reestablished in society, and also the village being reestablished as a way to transition into a more harmonious world in general. Um, and then one thing with Celestial Church, they grew out of that. We started all these things that you experienced from me in my past, and we talked about brought the Sangha in. So we have like a weekly meditation group. How to again, community is medicine, but also the meditation. So like, how do we rebuild society step by step around intention, volition, and liberation? We have to look at our mind. We have to look at our lens that we see creation through.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and we have to look at these deeper levels of trauma. Um, so it became more like around spiritual activism, and then created this thing. We created this thing called elemental activism,
Mm-hmm.
which is like how not to be a reactivist, right? In these time periods, because we can like look at things from a lens of our trauma and thinking that we're making change, but it's almost like a famous phrase as a friend of mine quotes, it's like we're moving pieces around a lawn, we're moving furniture around on the deck of the Titanic, thinking that it's going to save the people on the deck, but it's not.
Yeah.
And the power is underneath in the water. And the water is that spirituality, is the magic. It's that those prayers, it's that zone. So we need to create elemental activism where we're clear and we're doing right action. Because it may mean being in the protest, it may mean, but it also may mean just sitting still
Mm-hmm.
and really doing in a meditation of because we know that these things transform the field from science. They've done experiments, for example, around um, certain meditations done in DC, and it reduced the crime rate.
Mm-hmm.
And also we know from Global Heart Coherence and Heart Math Institute and different organizations like this that the coherence of a heart and people doing it collectively actually shifts the vibration of frequency globally.
Mm-hmm.
So we came like, okay, well, how do we really actually, liberate? Like, so you keep having to go deeper. And it always looks, when we go out there, it looks like we have to go in here,
Right.
go deeper in here. And we have to be honest about what's there. And we have to look at our shadows. And we have to look deeper at like how we're co-creating this situation
Mm-hmm.
that we all are collectively in. Um, so that's elemental activism, and it has a bunch of tracks that we're building out, and we bring teachers into that. Bridge building repairs, one track. It was like, wow, like we have all these beautiful movements and people, but we still don't know how to deal with conflict which correctly and how to make conflict generative, because
Mm-hmm.
conflict could be lead to intimacy, actually. Like Maladoma Somé says famously, um, is like, conflict is I forget the exact quote. He said conflict is basically it's the basis for it's calling intimacy in.
Mm-hmm.
It's a set for it. if we know how to work with it in that way and make it generative. So we want to create trainings around that, and we have some cohorts creating around that. The other track is trauma, tantra, and activism. That's from my tantra teacher, um, which is looking at the how not to be reactivist piece. So we do meditation, we look at anapanasati, we look at look at ourselves, we look at sensation, so we can respond versus react, and also not be just sitting on the cushion when the world is burning.
Yeah.
You know, so Tantra really good at that and not just being like just bypassing. And then the third track is land magic and art. And it's like the land back movement. We did some music around that. And I wanted to, and it seemed like humanity was one, and also looking at elections, and I was like, wow, like how are we looking at the relationships with the natural world, with the animistic reality, with deities, with spirit itself, like the indigenous communities, like we've done, where we are in direct communication with things versus we put our name on a slot, we scratch a slot, and we say we created change. When people are divine to be leaders, they were like they had them dreams that had to come for this. It wasn't just, or that you even had dreams that had to come before you became a practitioner. Now we have like you know, psychedelic assisted therapy or whatever. Not whatever has to happen, but we were like, whoa, like there's something that we're missing here. We're going, we're being hijacked like into capitalist like frameworks that are have the illusion like they're bringing us better places, but they may be creating more problems again because we're not staying still enough and actually looking and listening from a certain. So we like, how do we actually, if you look at the momos in the Andes or the Colombia, like people become quote unquote owners of particular lands and because of their relationship with the mountain, relationship with the water. And that's what created health. Those relationships and those offerings and that person looking, and then the community became healthy. And now we have situation where we have chronic disease and we have the most disease of almost any developed nation in the world. And we have the most money put out for our medical system.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. But we've forgotten and we've manicured our lawns. We're not growing, we're not doing the same thing we used to do. We're all separating these little cubicles and we're yelling at screens and we're voting for people thinking that we're going to make change when it's when forsaking the actual temple, our temple and the church of nature that's
Right.
all around us and the relationships with these things, the actual beings, the waters, all these things, and then we have polluted guts, and it's just kind of like, so that's what land magic and art is. It's like, how do we speak to that and be in communication? And that's magic in itself, the art of communication with the animistic reality. The last track in elemental activism is called The Politics of Imagination, which is looking at how our imagination has been hijacked and our attention has been hijacked by our phones, our technologies, media. They're like, look at this, look at that, look at this. And then our prana isn't able to maintain a consistent fire that sees through illusion, that honors its own intuition of our and different ways of knowing than just like, did you research that? Was it peer reviewed by this other company that got paid a bunch of money to write that statistical information anyways? And
Exactly.
then how do we just know, right? By in our relationship, you know, do we even have our elders around? Do we have, so, so that whole thing was like, we need to rewrite our way of doing change work, even.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're doing it from a framework that's been given to us within a system that is that is already sinking, you know. So that's esphera. We look at, and that's really for like the change makers, the people who are leading in leadership. How do we, the mainstream, the mystical phrase came out of that. It was like, we need to make this more mainstream, this spiritual outlet that's grounded. And then also how are we working with the minds, spirits, and bodies of the people that were coming out of prison, the people that were thrown away, you
Right.
know. So yeah,
That's so beautiful, man. That's so beautiful. I think that everything you and the organization are doing is amazing, and this is how we make the change in the world. And I love meeting and connecting with people like yourself because this is how it starts, inside ourselves, then with the people we surround ourselves with, then with the community, then with the cities, then with the countries, then with the world, right? And yeah, man, it's important and big work. So
yeah,
big bows to you, man, and it's been such an honor to have you on today. Thank you for sharing all your wisdoms, all your teachings, all the beautiful stories and experiences you had, man. So you're welcome on back anytime, and we can always do a part two. So um,
yeah,
yeah, man, thank you so much.
yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah.
All right, take care, brother.